The first thing is that the 2019 through 2020 elections, the elections for next year will be on April 18th. The open positions are president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, and historian. So please let us know if you're interested. Also, the open source Reddit bot project is ongoing. Please see the open source channel in the Discord and reach out to Julio if you want to be added as a collaborator. This can be an interesting project to add to your resume and gain some experience. For this, we're building it with Python. All right, so let's talk about Git. Here's an outline of what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about what is Git, what is GitHub. We're going to give a brief review of the basics. We'll talk about branches, merging, and we'll briefly touch on best practices to use when using Git. And then we'll do a demonstration with pull requests. And I'll ask for a couple of volunteers when we get to that. So you might ask yourself, what is Git? Git is a version control system developed by Linus Torvalds. Linus is also the same person who created Linux. And you might wonder, what is a version control system? So version control is a system that records changes in a file or a set of files over time. This is important because it allows you to recall your changes. This helps with debugging and can help you track collaborations. So this is why it's very important when you're working in teams. And this is extremely popular in software engineering. I can almost guarantee that you will use Git throughout your career if you're pursuing software engineering. It also lets you use branching, which is another reason why it's great for collaboration. Different version control softwares do exist, but the one that we'll focus on today is Git. And that's the most popular. Git is used alongside all source code repositories, and that's what GitHub is. So a source repository is an archive of source code that's hosted online. There's different ones like GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket. The most popular one is GitHub, and if you can actually get GitHub Pro for free as a student, and we'll talk about that a little below. All right, so let's go over the basics. Does anyone have questions at this point? Okay. So this shows the life cycle of using Git. So right now you see here that there's a remote repository. That would be GitHub, and this is where the code is hosted. If you want to bring this code to your workspace, which is your computer, you would use the command Git Clone and then the name of the URL that's hosted. Or you would use Git pull. A Git clone is how you first bring a repository onto your workspace. Git pull is what you would use to pull the latest code if you already have the repository on your workspace. The next step would be staging. So once you make changes to the files that you have on your workspace, you'll want to stage them so they're ready to be part of your local repository. So this is, you'll add the files that you've changed, and it'll be staged. And then you can make a commit so that your local repository is updated with these changes. But in order for the remote repository to be updated and match with your local repository, you must push to the remote repository. So this is the basic life cycle of using Git. There are other commands that you can use to speed things up or check differences, but this goes a bit beyond the basics, so we won't really talk about it today. Just know that these are the basics of using Git. Okay, so let's get into branches. Did anyone have questions at this point? Okay, so let's get into branches. So the building block of a branch is a linked list of commits. So a commit was your changes. So the building block of a branch is the linked list of commits, and this shows you the version history. Every commit has a unique hash value, and branches are defined by whatever commit they reference. So the current branch you're on is based on where the head is pointing. So the head pointer is pointing to the master branch, and so you can tell that you're on the master branch. The master branch is pointing to this commit, and this is the latest commit. In order to create a new branch, you can use the command git branch and then the name of the branch. See, here we are creating a new branch called Crazy Experiment, and it'll point to where you were before. So if you're on the master branch and you created a new branch, it will point to here. But this command, git branch, and the name of the branch will not change you to this branch. It only creates the branch. It doesn't move the head. So in order to move the head, you would use the command git checkout and then the name of the branch. So you can see that the head has moved. Or if you wanted to do the previous command and checkout all in one command, you can use git checkout -b and then the name of the branch. So this would create the branch and move the head to that branch. So now you would be working on that branch. Okay. So now we're on the Crazy Experiment branch because that's where the head is pointing. Here you can see we've made a commit because we're one ahead of the master branch. The master branch doesn't move because it's separate, or the pointer is still remaining where it was. So at this point, we've made a couple of commits. And you might be wondering, how do you update the master branch? So to update the master branch, you will need to make a merge. So we'll get into merging branches right now, but at this point, does anyone have questions? Am I moving too fast? Or are we good? Okay. So merging branches. Okay. So git merge incorporates the changes from your name commits into the current branch. So let's say we want to merge the changes from Crazy Experiment into the master branch. We would have to move to the master branch and then git merge Crazy Experiment so that Git incorporates the changes. It's also used by Git Clone when you want to get the latest changes. Okay, so back to how do we update it. We'll use the git checkout command to go to the master branch. And we can use git merge Crazy Experiment. And now you can see that the master branch has jumped up to where the Crazy Experiment branch is, and they're matching. There was no new commits made on the master branch. So this merge is known as a fast forward merge because it can just jump right up to the latest commit. If there were changes made on the master branch while we were making changes on the Crazy Experiment branch, you can't perform a fast forward merge since the master has new commits. So this picture is an illustration of that. Master has changes that are different from this other branch. And this type of merge uses the recursive strategy. And this is the default strategy used by Git when you pull or merge. It makes things easier if you're able to use a fast forward merge. So you can minimize your chances of using a merge with the recursive strategy if you actively merge your the master branch into your working branch. Yeah, so I was saying if your branch is updated enough that merging into master should be a fast forward merge, and you shouldn't run into something called merge conflicts. So merge conflicts is when Git doesn't know which code to use, so it's conflicted, and you'll have to resolve that. A merge conflict occurs in two situations: when a file was modified in one branch but deleted in another branch, or the same line in the same file was modified differently on two different branches. So you can open the conflicted file and choose a desired change, and then commit this code again with the way that you would like to see it in order to fix the conflict. You can use some GUI tools to help you out with this as well. If you don't want to use terminal, there's GUI tools such as source tree, Some IDEs have built-in Git integration, like VS Code and Atom. Those are my two favorites. There's also the Git merge tool for merging. This picture on the left shows you what the code would look like if you were to have a conflict. So you can see that the new version is in the head, and the old version is shown there too, and Git doesn't know which version to use. So it's conflicted, and you'll have to choose the change and commit again. Does everyone get that? Okay. Yeah.
Yes. So could you explain the fast forward? Can you explain the fast forward merge again?
The fast forward merge. This is an example of the fast forward merge. If we want to move the master branch to where the crazy experiment branch is, it just jumps right up. This is done automatically by Git. You don't necessarily need to know exactly what type of merge is going on, but it helps you. If you can use a fast forward merge, you're less likely to run into merge conflicts. And merge conflicts can slow down your development, so you don't have to fix it. Because the fast forward merge is just jumping right up the linked list of commits. It doesn't need to try to match up the changes. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. So I want to talk about best practices in using Git. You want to push your changes soon so that you can have, you can be more likely to have a fast forward merge like Henry just asked about. You shouldn't put broken code on the master branch. You should try to have another branch where you can do your testing. So it's recommended to use the master branch for production ready code, and then have a develop branch used for pushing your latest changes. So QA or quality assurance can test your code on the development branch. And once it's production ready, you can have it be pushed to the master branch. Again, these are best practices, and you're not required to do these to use Git. You should also use clear and concise commit messages, so that when you look back at your history, you can see clearly what you've done, or what other developers can look at your history and see what you've done clearly. And when working in a team, you should talk to them about what branches will be used for. Some teams work differently. Students can get GitHub Pro for free. If you look for the GitHub Education pack, you can sign up for that. There's also an opportunity to get some stickers and t-shirts in October with Hacktoberfest. This is hosted by DigitalOcean partnering with GitHub. And resources for learning more, you can check out the documentation for Git or the Git tutorials done by Atlassian. There's also tons of resources online by just Googling. So I want to move on to the demonstration now and talk a bit about pull requests. Does anyone have questions before we move on to that? Oh, okay. So who has Git installed on their computer? And okay, that's good. And who has a GitHub account? Oh, okay. So right now I'm going to create a new repository and ask for some volunteers to join me and make their own branches and make pull requests.
Do you use source tree or other?
We're just going to use GitHub. I'll show you how to use GitHub with terminal.
Okay.
But you can feel free to use source tree if that's what you like. So this is my GitHub. I'm signed in and I'm on my GitHub page. I'm going to go to repositories and create a new one. to call this Git Workshop, and for description, I'll put Git Workshop. I'm making it public so that anyone can see it. I want to initialize this repository with a README file so that I can easily clone it onto my workspace. Like it says here, you can skip the step if you're importing an existing repo, but we're not, we're creating a new one. The git ignore file is a file that you can put files in, or it's confusing. It's a file that you can write in other files that you want Git to ignore. We won't use that now, and we don't need a license, so I'm creating this repository. Okay, so right now this is empty. Before I start, I want to ask for some collaborators. So who wants to join in? Try it. Okay. Can you tell me your username?
I'm just gonna type it.
Oh, you want to come up and type it?
Yeah,
Sure.
how fast we got.
Okay. Who else wants to try it out? You want to come type your username? Anyone else? Okay. So I'm going to send the link to this in the Discord, and you guys can check it out while we work on it. Okay, I put it in the general voice channel. So, Henry and Tisho, do you have access to this?
I don't have the link to the Discord.
Okay, it's right on the board.
Oh, I got it from email. I can do it from email.
Okay. All right, so while you get the link, I'm going to show you how I'm going to clone this to my workspace. So GitHub conveniently has this button here, clone or download. Clone with HTTPS, that's what we want to do. We can copy this URL that it gives us. And I'm going to open my terminal. So I'm going to go to the folder that I want to put it in. I like putting my projects in the dev folder. So to move it to my workspace, I will do git clone and the name or the URL that it provides me. And I'm cloning in. This pulls a repository to my workspace, but it doesn't take me into the workspace. So I'm going to cd into Git Workshop. Now I'm in there, and you can see the only file there is a README file. I'm going to add a file that we can make changes on. So I'm going to use Vim for this. This is a built-in text editor with the terminal. You can use any IDE you want. I'm just quickly putting the file in. Okay. So I made some changes to my workspace. Now I'm going to follow the life cycle. Let me move this over. I'll just refer to it throughout. So right now I'm adding to go into the staging. But first I'm going to do git status just to see what changes have been made. So it says I'm on the master branch. I'm up to date right now, and I have an untracked file. So I'll have to use git add and then the name of the file in order to add it. So we can do git add test.text because that's the file I made. Or what I like to do is just add all the changes. So we can use the command git add -- all. And this will add everything. So now it's staged right here. And to commit this to the local repository, I'll use the command git commit -m. And I'm going to give a quick message with this. So I'll say added file for testing. Now it's committed on the master branch, because that's where I am. And then I want to push my local repository to the remote repository. So for this, I'll use git push origin master. So I'm pushing to master. Okay. And now if we go back to GitHub, you should see that the file's there. Have you found the URL? Henry, have you found the URL yet?
The URL
For the GitHub?
oh yeah, I'm gonna do it.
You can just search my username.
Yeah, you mean like this? You mean this page?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you found it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Alright, so now I'm going to create a new branch, but I want Henry to show to follow along. So are you able to clone the workspace to your machine?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna do it.
Okay. So, to show, I'm not sure when you cloned it. I just added this file, so you might want to pull from master to get the latest changes.
Git pull, right?
Yeah, git pull, origin master. Got it? Okay. So I'm going to take you through creating a new branch. Right now I'm going to create a branch called the aid branch, just for testing. Normally, like you said, the best practice would be to have a develop branch where you can have your latest changes there and a master branch for production. But for smaller personal projects or just this workshop, I think creating a branch like this is so we're going to use the command git checkout -b, and then the name of the branch. So I'll say aid. And now I've switched to a new branch aid, and it should be pointing to where the master branch is pointing on. Henry and Tisho, if you could do the same.
Which one?
Create a new branch and switch to it.
Be the same name?
No, your name.
And yeah, so I'm not very good with command line.
Okay.
Yeah, so what's the command for opening the branch? I already cloned it.
Okay. Can you do git status really quickly?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you cloned it? Yes.
Oh, no,
C.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, just, I didn't, yeah.
Okay, you can knock them off. Okay.
Yeah, I put it on that.
Right, so at this point, I'm on the A branch. I can check that with git status. Nothing needs to commit or updated. And now I want to change the test file and push it to the A branch. So, I think I should wait until Henry has his.
Yeah, I just got into the wrong.
Okay. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to change the file. And save it. If I do Git status again, you can see that the file is changed. And I'm going to stage this by adding the changes using git add all, or you can just type it in a new file. Now I'm going to commit this with a message, say change test file, and I'm going to push to my branch. So I'm going to say git push origin 8. And the changes have been pushed, and there's a new branch that should now be available on GitHub. So when I come here, I notice that it says my recently pushed branches. Abe, less than a minute ago, I have the option to compare and pull request. So I want to talk about, before I do, are Henry and Tisha, are you following along?
Yeah, I'm following along.
Okay. Have you changed the file and pushed?
Okay, so you want to change it in my own branch?
Yes. Make a change and then push to them. Okay, in the meantime, I'm just gonna start talking about pull requests and show you how it's done. So there's two ways. You can click pull requests and new pull request, or you can just use what will pop up if you recently pushed to a branch. So I'm going to click compare and pull request. So this indicates that I'm merging my changes from Abe into the master branch. And you can give a title. It will automatically take the title from the latest commit. So if it says change test file, I can add somebody to review this change. I can assign someone to take care of this change, and you can assign yourself as well. And you can put labels to keep things organized. Choose a project if you have one, or a milestone if you have one as well. You can put a description, say testing out. Pull request. And if I scroll down, I can see that it shows my changes. This is me just changing the file. I'll add all of us as assignees, and they should get an email saying that the pull request was made as soon as I create it. Yeah.
Can you explain what a pull request is?
So a pull request is allows developers to review what changes are made before there's a merge.
Okay.
And this will also tell you if there's going to be a merge conflict, and you can handle it here before the merge is made. So when you're working with the team, I think this is probably the best way to merge your changes, rather than going to the branch and just merging like that. With this way, you can see what changes have been made. You can add reviewers and assignees to check it out also, and they can even write comments on your code and suggestions, and then you can make those changes before a merge happens. So this is something that you'll use when you're working with the team on Git or on GitHub. Other source code repositories like the GitLab and Bitbucket also have this feature. So what I want to do is make this pull request and also have Henry to show try it and then show you how to handle merge conflict. Are there any questions right now? Yeah.
So if you were like deleting, like, let's say you had like 10 files, right?
Mhm.
And then you want to save all of them except for like one.
Except for one of them?
Yeah. Like you just want to like do just like a random text file, it's like a text or something. But you have like 9 actual files you want to clear. Like would you have just like push them all one by one?
Well, you can do that, or you can stash away the changes for that file and come back to it later, and then add all the files. Git stash is another command that lets you put away a change and then possibly come back to it later. Or if it's a file that you're never going to want to have pushed to the Git repository, then you can add it to the .gitignore file.
Oh, okay.
It depends on the circumstance. Good?
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay. Okay. And have you made changes to
Yes.
this test file?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I made changes and I committed to my own branch.
Okay. And have you pushed to your own branch?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you go into github.com and make a pull request, such as this? Okay, so I'm going to create this pull request. We'll see that it checks to see if there's any conflicts. The screen arrow looks good. It means that there's no conflicts with the base branch. Continuous integration is something that would automatically deploy the latest code onto a server, but we're not going to worry about that right now. So we see the changes. If I go through the commits, we can see the changes and the files changed. Someone can comment on this and request changes. Ideally, another developer would come in here, review my changes, and then merge the pull request. In this case, I'm just going to merge it myself so that we can start to handle merge conflicts. So, Henry, to show, have you created your own pull? Oh, yes, I see it. Okay. So right now, I'm going to merge mine. So this is going from Abe to master. It was successfully merged and closed. And if we go back to master, we'll see that my changes are here. And all the commits have been mine so far. So if I go back to pull requests, and I go to Henry's change, we'll see that this branch has a conflict that must be resolved because Henry and I have changed the same line on the same file, and now Git doesn't know which one it should be using. So you can see his commit, you can see the file has changed. If I go back to this main page, I should try to resolve these conflicts, so I'll click on that. And we see where Git is confused. It doesn't know which one to use. So here I can change what's needed, or change it to how I would like it to be. So I would want to show both of ours here. And I can get rid of these arrows that have the name of the branch on it. So as soon as I do that, I can mark as resolved. And then I can commit this merge. So pull requests make it easy to handle merge conflicts because it shows you exactly what was conflicted and lets you change it right there, right away. you can see that the changes have been merged. So let's go to Workshop. Okay. I think that Henry's request had the wrong. Okay, so yeah, now there's no conflicts, and we can merge this pull request. And if we go back, we can see that both of our changes are there. And then we can also handle to shows pull request the same way. So it says that there is conflicts. I can click to resolve the conflict. Okay. Nice. So a lot of the time you'll be working on different functions and you might not know which one is correct, so you'll have to talk with your team, and that's where the comments come in useful. Okay, so I can now mark this as resolved. I can commit the merge. And then now there's no conflicts, and I can merge this pull request. So now there's no more pull requests remaining, and we see that we've gotten the changes from all of our own branches to the master branch. And the master branch has the latest changes, and I guess would be production ready. It's production ready, okay. So if we were to have a development branch, when you make a pull request, we would want to push our changes to a development branch, so we would choose the base as development or develop, and then compare it to the branch that we're on and try to pull the changes that way. So yeah, I hope you learned about pull requests. They're very useful when working in a team and working with different branches. So does anyone have questions? Yeah.
In terms of code, if you're working with like C, Java, or Python, is there an IDE that supports each and every one of those?
Yeah, you can use whichever IDE you like. So let's say for mine, okay, right now I'm behind. Let me change to back to the master branch, and let me get pull origin master. So now my files have been updated, and I can open this in my preferred IDE. I like using Visual Studio Code, so this will open up. It opened on my other monitor. And this IDE would support whichever language we're using. So I can choose here what language. Although this isn't Java, but if it was, I could have the IDE treat it like it was. And Git will also detect what language is being used. Does that answer?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And also, Visual Studio Code has Git integration, so you can see what changes have been made. Let me change this back. If I say hello world randomly in here, and I save it, I'll see my changes here. And I can click on that and see what was changed. And there may be, yeah, you can commit straight from here, and there's more actions that you can use. So if you're not comfortable with a terminal or a command line, then you can also use an IDE that supports Git. And the IDE will automatically detect if it's a Git repository if you pulled it from the repo. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. And you can also see the contributors for this project. So if there's no more questions, I think that's all we have. Please make sure to sign in. And feel free to grab any tacos. Thank you.